Karens versus managers. By now we're all well aware of this heated rivalry, and boy do these two sure get heated. If Cartoon's angriest Karen faced Cartoon's angriest manager, who would win? Today I'll be breaking down the stats and abilities for Nicole and Benson to figure out who'd come out on top in this rage-filled customer service dispute. Let's start with the former, stats. Fittingly for two cartoon characters, these two have all kinds of ridiculous feats they've performed or scale to, which vary wildly in scale. In terms of direct feats though, it's not even close. Sure, Benson has survived large explosions, and in his enraged state threatened to disintegrate the entire park, a feat worth around 6 megatons of TNT. But Nicole completely eclipses these, as just her disappointment in Richard alone was capable of parting clouds on a continental scale. Comparing the size of these clouds to the curvature of the Earth, and using the minuscule time frame for their dispersal, the kinetic energy here would be at least 4 exatons of TNT, putting Nicole roughly 600 billion times stronger in terms of direct feats. However, once we take scaling into account, things get more complicated and a lot higher in scale. Starting with Benson, while not a top tier in universe or anything, he should pretty safely scale to his fellow park members along with more run-of-the-mill characters. This gives him access to a plethora of higher feats, such as when these lawyers survived an impact that destroyed the entire surface of the Earth, or when Mordecai and Rigby survived a planet exploding right underneath them. Nicole, meanwhile, should comfortably upscale pretty much every character in her series, given the large majority are scared of even confronting her, giving her scaling to feats like Patrick moving the moon with a slipper or Bobbert exploding the sun with a kick. We can go even further though, as both characters' high ends include feats on the universal scale. Nicole has helped Gumball defeat the console, which could turn the entire universe into a video game. She should also easily scale to feats such as Gumball and Darwin surviving the Big Bang, or Richard being capable of destroying the universe when he got a job. As for Benson, I think his universal ends are a lot more debatable. He can potentially scale to Pops and Anti-Pops' universal reset through Mordecai and Rigby surviving it. However, Benson himself explicitly didn't survive this, and characters stronger than both him and Mordecai and Rigby, such as the baby duck mech, also didn't survive, which gives the idea that them surviving is more of a resistance thing rather than an actual durability feat. Aside from that, Benson's best argument for universal scaling is through Skips and his team stopping the melancholy every year, which is stated it would rain darkness upon reality with the density of 1,000 dying suns. Thousands of stars are obviously below universal levels, but being capable of shrouding all of reality in darkness should be around that scale, and while they aren't able to fully defeat the melancholy, they are able to push it back into its dimension. Ultimately, despite some of his universal scaling being less reliable in my eyes, the safest conclusion here is to put the two on similar levels, given they both have arguments for scaling to these levels of power. Thankfully, speed is a far more simple stat to figure out here. Both should be at least massively faster than light, with scaling to feats like Bobbert kicking a soccer ball to the sun or Pops running to Jupiter, both of which getting hundreds of times faster than light. On a higher end, both series have feats beyond finite speed. For Nicole, Bobbert has punched Gumball back in time, Larry has moved so fast he's been in multiple places at once, and Gumball has reacted to and moved during time travel, all of which would require speed surpassing finite levels or even surpassing time. For Benson, his examples are less clear, but Skip's consistently fighting against an entity that can create portals unbound by time, and Rigby piloting a ship between timelines both are likely feats of surpassing time and speed, meaning that in terms of both power and speed, these two are practically dead even at their peaks. Therefore, this fight is going to mostly come down to their abilities. And in terms of abilities, it's not even close. Nicole can create shockwaves, shapeshift her body, create invisible construct, fire beams of energy, and says she can steal souls. Additionally, with just a look from her eyes, she can melt objects, age people up, make someone do what she wants, and even force others to relive their memories like a penance stare. Comparatively, Benson is far less versatile, and what few abilities he does have, like fire manipulation, forceful making, and death Kwon Do techniques, aren't nearly as potent as Nicole's crazier set of abilities. Granted, these are only their more basic showings. Things get quite a bit more complicated once we discuss their wackier abilities, and they actually even out in a few areas. For instance, Benson could make himself extremely lucky with a fortune cookie, which when Rigby stole his cookie, has good things literally fall into his hands and even prevented himself from getting hit. However, Nicole can counter this with the luck-granting helmet she and her family used, which could similarly have items conveniently appear for the characters and prevent themselves from getting hit. For another example, if Nicole and subsequently her family becomes broke, the show itself will lose its budget, and reality will begin to break down to the point of erasing objects and characters. But Benson actually has a perfect counter to this, as in the comics he receives the powers of the Holy Order of Orderliness, which grants him the ability to restore order to reality, tampering chaos like the kind Nicole can cause. Benson's greatest asset here, though, are the park records. What's written in this book becomes reality, as when Mordecai and Rigby changed events in the book, those events actually happened, ranging from changing the weather, creating monsters, manipulating others' minds, or just erasing people and objects. This book is by far Benson's strongest hacks, and its ability to erase people could potentially end the fight right then and there. However, there's a few issues with this as a win condition. For starters, Benson himself has never used the park records like this, and is against tampering with the book, making it unlikely he'd resort to this. More importantly though, it's unlikely this would permanently keep Nicole down. Gumball is a very meta cartoon. We've already covered this meta aspect with Nicole determining the show's budget, but it also gives the Wattersons a form of narrative immunity. In the finale, it's revealed that episode changes are canon to the series, and after each episode, the world resets back to its status quo. We see this at the start of the episode, with the family and house going back to perfectly normal despite the destruction caused. We also see it at the end of the episode, where right before the Wattersons are attacked, Gumball says the only thing that can save us is reality being completely reset by some kind of magic device, before the episode cuts to credits, obviously referencing how the cartoon resets back to normal each episode despite what happened in the previous one. What this means is that even if Benson killed Nicole, she in reality would simply reset at the end of the episode, bringing her back to life and removing any previous damage, giving him ultimately zero way to permanently end the fight. Conversely, Benson lacked the same survivability Nicole has. While she survived being cut up and turned into a puddle, Benson lacks any notable survivability or regeneration examples. With Nicole's far greater versatility, this means she has access to a wider range of instant win moves. She could incapacitate him by forcing him to relive memories, age him up to the point he couldn't fight anymore, mind control him, or just steal his soul. All of which are more likely than Benson using the park records and are things he would have no counter to. It's important to note that the Wattersons' narrative immunity is likely something exclusive to them, as it's been shown multiple times in series that the protagonists of the series get special treatment compared to others. Even if you for some reason equated it for Benson, Nicole stealing his soul could likely bypass it, as Gumball characters have never survived that, and her options for incapacitating him like aging him up or controlling his mind would still be effective. Overall, Nicole just has consistently far more versatile and better abilities, along with far more reliable win conditions, to the point Benson probably doesn't even have any. So while stats may be equal, Nicole most certainly takes the edge in abilities. Now, I could go over some other areas of the debate like skill, stamina, or experience, but they'd pretty much all go to Nicole by nature of her being a more prominent fighter, and I don't feel like beating a dead horse, so we'll just skip to the conclusion. Despite matching in stats, Benson simply comes up short in every other factor of the debate, especially abilities. While he no doubt had some powerful abilities, Nicole has a counter for all of them. On the flip side, Benson doesn't have any reliable counters to Nicole's game-ending hacks, along with being severely outclassed in terms of more basic abilities. Since she holds practically all the cards here, the Karen beats out the manager today, leaving Nicole Watterson the victor. Anyways, for some final notes before we end, gotta say I really like this matchup. I think it'd make a great episode with all the hilarious interactions you can get out of a customer service dispute, along with having some really cool power interactions you can mix in with the comedy. Probably my favorite matchup for both series, despite being far from the most popular. Now then, that'll be all from me today. Let me know if you agreed or disagreed in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, consider clicking that subscribe button to keep up with future uploads. Anyways, see y'all in a bit for Hulkzilla.